I had the idea to use this diagram to illustrate energy compression over a fairly long timescale. The rectangles each represent an area or volume that one is trying to compress the energy into, although since they differ quite significantly, it's hard to use the same terminology to describe what takes place in each stage. The first stage, represented by the larger rectangle, is whereby one can compress an amount of energy and perhaps spend a year doing so. But it's quite achievable, so the energy can be compressed into that space and the result gained from doing so. To think about it is quite a general thing. It's hard to describe because the effect could be something that you'd describe in somebody else, the same way that you describe it in yourself. Perhaps like eating an apple. The second stage is the anomaly, is what makes the process interesting or even fascinating. And also it's possible to notice how sometimes these internal processes are represented by external circumstances. And it's almost as though people have failed to achieve something internally, so they try and create it externally. In fact, this second stage is a long time period and can be represented by a fair amount of failure in terms of trying to compress the energy into that smaller area. And it's actually this failure that almost defines the process. You'd expect to see a result, but there's no tangible result until one gets to the third, smaller triangle, this space inside. And so now if you try to define the space, in contrast to something that's fairly general, this third area is very black, it's very dark, and it's also very silent. It's one of those things you could look at two ways. For example, emptiness to some people would mean loss, or sorrow, or sadness, whereas the actual definition of emptiness, from a practitioner point of view, is just emptiness. This third rectangle then, in being black and dark and silent, could well house all sorts of damage that's been done over the years, might well be in this place. So it has this dual kind of feel to it. At the one time it's silent and black, but at the other time, perhaps in some people, it would not be a pleasant thing to conjure up. However, the thing about meditation is that it's okay to experience things when you're sitting there and meditating. Not all things are pleasant when one is practicing meditation. Some are in fact quite horrible. I saw a lady doing clairvoyance and she was channeling a plane crash, and you'd have to say that that's quite an extreme thing to do and very unpleasant to look at if you were the person looking at it. In meditation, it would be more effort to get up and run away than it would be to just sit there and carry on meditating and let things manifest. Though there is usually some point at which you would feel like, well, I don't want to do this, or you're kind of on an edge where you might back away from the meditation. The main thing in this process is how the second stage doesn't work until the third stage manifests. The second stage is like something that's just ongoing, and I'm not sure how long it could go on for, but I would say it can go on for 20 years. The third stage, as opposed to energy being compressed, energy is then absorbed. It's absorbed into this blackness. For those trying to practice Tantra then, not to give yourself a hard time, because the time scale is very long, the task is very difficult. If you fail for a number of years, then just persevere.